got them. Have I? Have I got them?
I'll show them. I'll show them up in a sec.
Okay.
Hey, hello everyone. How you doing? Um, Aid, I was just reading through the comments there before we went live. I saw your jokes in there. A vegan and a vegetarian decide to jump off a cliff together to see who hits the ground first, who wins society. Um, boom, boom. Literally boom,
Yes.
boom. Yeah.
Ah.
Um, so, yeah. So, I've got one for you as well. Two
Go on.
cannibals. Two cannibals are sitting together eating a clown. One
Mm-hmm.
turns to the other and says, "Does this taste funny to you?"
Yep.
So
They're
yeah,
brilliant.
but just to get us started, when you come in, guys, please say hello. Let us know where you're coming in from, and we've got some messages here for you, Stephen, already from PA Beta. Parbita, sorry. Morning, chaps. Going to have to catch the replay, getting ready for work. Just
Oh,
wanted to say, though, I really like your content, Stephen.
thank you.
And you've got a $10 super chat there. Have a great morning and a lively discussion. Thank you very much, Parbita.
That's very kind. That's very, very kind, isn't it?
Yeah. And Aid, yes, this is the Vegan Appreciation Channel.
Oh, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Papa
Yes.
Carnivore, thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you coming
Hello.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, guys, if you've got any questions for us, please put a Q in front of it, or anything you'd like us to discuss, please put a Q in front of it. We'll get to it. So it's been about 2 weeks since we caught up, Stephen. So how have you been?
Yeah. I've been very well, thank you very much. Getting the same old question, about adding carbs back in and speaking to people about the A1C, and I've even got a little prop to explain the A1C to people because they just don't seem to understand it. And I thought I'm going to make it as basic as possible so people get why it's an unreliable marker, especially if you eat this way. So,
Mm.
yes.
So, like, how can you give us a demo of that with the prop?
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I think Papa Carnival has a question, which,
Oh, okay.
yeah, which is,
Well,
yeah,
Stephen, I just wanted you to share your thoughts on adding carbs back in.
yeah. Well, yeah, because it's really common. Firstly, I have no problem with people adding carbs back in if they do it based on information that's correct, and that's my big bugbear, because many people say, "Well, my A1C has gone up," and the A1C is notorious for being unreliable. So it's really that simple. And I think a lot of people don't really understand about the life of the red blood cell and how it has an impact. And the reason I know about it is because 16 years ago, so this isn't even new information, if someone had what I felt was an artificially low HbA1c, we would then test for what's called hemolytic anemia to see if the red blood cells were dying too soon. And people still don't seem to understand this principle. So I've got a red blood cell here, and I'm going to show you what happens, how it gets measured, and what I'm going on about. So there's a red blood cell, and every one of those blobs represents 10 hemoglobin that have been glycated. That's what that represents. So over 120 days, every 10th day, we put one of these on here, and that's 10 hemoglobin. So there's one hemoglobin being glycated every single day. And all that means is a glucose molecule has bonded to a protein, the nitrogen base of the protein, which is a irreversible bond. It can't be broken. So once that's done, it's done. So we know that when we see that, that's how much glycation has happened to the hemoglobin. We do need to remember that it isn't just hemoglobin that's glycated, it's every protein in your body. Albumin is glycated, collagen, so that's going to make you look older. Right, now, so how does that actually get measured, and why is the lifespan important? So let's say that is our red blood cell. It's been in the system for 120 days. It under high pressure is a thing called an HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography, which is a column basically that the blood goes into, and it goes down this column, and depending on the charge, it sticks around in a certain area of the column, and that takes the reading. This is an HbA1c analyzer. At no point is it measuring lifespan, and that's really critical. So it comes in under high pressure, goes into the column. It's stationary because of the charge for a set period of time, and that period of time and where it is in the column gives you the reading. So just for ease, we're going to say that the reading is 120, and off that goes, and the next one comes down and it's 120. So then, to get the HbA1c, they take the number 120 and they divide it by days. And this is where it's a problem. The constant, this is what the labs use. They use one number. Doesn't matter about the life of the red blood cell. They divide it by 120. So that gives you a number of 1, okay, which correlates perfectly to 1 hemoglobin per day being glycated. There's your HbA1c. On average, it's 1. All right. Now, if we take 6 of these off to represent 60 days of life, okay, so we've got a red blood cell that looks like that.
Right.
It's only been in the system for 60 days. So this would represent someone with anemia, hemolytic anemia, where your red blood cells live, too short. Goes into the column. It's got a different charge. It will rest somewhere different, and it will go off, and it will be red, and and the next one will come in, and that will be in this high pressure column, and that will go off, and the number would come back 60. But if you get 60 and you divide it by 120, which is what they believe the red blood cell life is, you get 0.5. So that's half. You've halved your HbA1c, but your glycation rate is still 1 hemoglobin per day, because this has only been in the system 60 days.
Right.
60 divided by 120 is 0.5.
Right.
So the life of the red blood cell is important. Now, if you start adding carbs back in, well, you're going to glycate more. But if you're adding the carbs back in because your HbA1c has gone up, then you need to do what's called a reticulocyte count and work out the life of the red blood cell. So let's take a carnivore's red blood cell that's been in the system 150 days. All right. It's still, these still represent 10 hemoglobin, or 1 per day. That goes into the column, sticks up here because the charge is greater, and that goes through, bang, 150, bang, 150. And if you get 150 and divide it by 120 days, your HbA1c is 1.25. It's gone up.
Right.
That all makes sense, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just because it's living longer, it's got to, and it has more chance to get more glycation because it's living longer.
But it's not more glycation per day.
Right.
It is the same. What I'm trying to prove there was that's what's happening. So then when you get a reticulocyte count, and then when you also do like a fructosamine test, then that will actually, which is only a 3-week thing, which is why there's less unreliability about it. There's not measuring fructose, by the way, still glucose and protein. Then that gives you a truer reading. So the answer to the first part of that question is, if you're changing because your HbA1c's gone up, then that's a bad decision, because you need to look at the life of the red blood cell. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you're looking at your blood glucose level and it is going up to 105, that's not a problem. I don't know where this is going to be under 100 comes from. It certainly doesn't come from science, because there are known thresholds for certain things to happen. So with the research, we know that 180 milligrams per deciliter, that's when you get what's called the renal threshold. That's when the kidneys can't manage the glucose anymore and starts putting it into the urine. That's a known scientific research threshold. It's rough, but it's about 180. Nowhere near 100, is it? That's quite a distance away. And pre-diabetes is basically a marketing phrase, which was, if you go back to Richard Kahn, who was the scientific advisor of the American Diabetes Association, they literally made up the phrase in 2001. They had an NIH lunch to come up with something, and honestly, this is all true, all documented, that would scare doctors out of their complacency about diabetes. That's honestly what they said. Yeah.
And that's only since 2001.
Yeah. They came up with it in 2001 in the National Institute of Health's cafeteria, basically. And they decided that pre-diabetes would be a thing. So Science magazine 2019 blew the lid on this and actually did an article called "Pre-Diabetes Was Born as a Public Relations Catchphrase." So all of that, where people say, and the Cochrane report, which everyone knows is pretty reliable up until recently, they did a review of 103 studies, and they concluded that people with pre-diabetics rarely, if ever, went on to be diabetic. And I've got a quote here: "Doctors should be careful about treating pre-diabetes because we are not sure whether this will result in more benefit than harm." And that was the thing. When they did the pre-diabetic thing, which was honestly a marketing catchphrase to get people to pay attention, that was 72 million extra Americans could now be medicated. You know, and it was a term to scare doctors.
That's like reducing the blood pressure, or reducing the cholesterol numbers or whatever.
Yep. All right. So the next thing is, why are people worried about 105, 110 milligrams per deciliter? In this context, we have less insulin, so that's important to factor in. And we'll get to the bit of adding carbs in a minute. So are they adding carbs back in, which makes no sense if they're worried about how high their blood glucose is going, makes no sense whatsoever. And we know that really the other thing that people worry about is what's called the polyol pathway, which is the thing that where excess glucose is turned into sorbitol, and that can affect your eyes. In fact, that's what actually happens. So, but that's at 130 milligrams per deciliter, or 7 millimoles per liter in the UK. And we know that because that's research. So we could pretty much say that up to 130 milligrams per deciliter, that's okay. And it's really only troublesome when you get above that chronically elevated level consistently. And that is quite a worry. So the polyol pathway, what happens is about, on average, even now, about 3% of our glucose is being dealt with that. So our blood glucose is managed in many different ways. It's not just insulin, which is another thing that bothers me. It's not really about insulin. But anyway, so insulin deals with some of it, but the polyol pathway deals with about 3%. That goes off and that's broken down, sorbitol, that's fine. When you get over 130 milligrams per deciliter, that ramps up to about 30% of your glucose. Over that amount goes to sorbitol, and then that goes into your eye. That compound can get everywhere, but it gets into your eye in particular. It's osmotic, it draws up water, and it makes your lenses go opaque, which is what a cataract is. So that we know that's what causes it. So if you're worried about your blood glucose levels going up a little bit, why? Why are you worried about 105? Why are you worried about 110? There's no science to that. This buzzword of it's got to be under 100 is totally irrelevant. It comes from nothing. And when you have a low insulin state, we have 14 different glucose transporters, and everyone focuses on GLUT4 because that's one that uses the muscle. And you've got to have insulin to make that work. Well, there's 4 other methods where it doesn't need insulin, and all the others don't need insulin. They don't need it at all. So we get what's called passive diffusion, and as that name might imply, that's a little bit slower. Secondly, don't worry about the HbA1c. 105 milligrams per deciliter, 110. There's nothing problematic about that in this way of eating. It is problematic if you are eating 45 to 65% carbohydrates because you're actually elevating it continually. We have these. So to make this really simple, you need about 100 milligrams per deciliter in your blood, about 5 grams per 5 liters. That's what you need. Now, Dave, I don't know about you, but if I need a certain thing, I'd always have slightly more of that thing, just for emergencies.
Right.
So if I need
Yes.
100 milligrams per deciliter, that's sort of what the body levels out at.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather have like 105, 110 in case I am going to start exercising. Now, I'd like that sort of background extra.
You have that, that backup, right?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want it to be less. And this is where there's no joined up thinking of people adding back carbs, because they say, well, gluconeogenesis is stressful. Is it? Well, it isn't for a start. But if you're going to say it is, then why do you want a lower level of blood glucose all the time? Why are you working on the sort of edges? Why not just have a little bit of backup floating around? Secondly, understand that if you're fat adapted, so we'll go back to that cell. Now, if you've got a cell there like that, and you've got space for fatty acids and it's absolutely full. Let's say I haven't got anything to illustrate fatty acids, but let's say it's completely full of fatty acids and glucose goes bobbing past. We'll use that a little bit of glucose there, and it tries to get in.
So it can't get in, right?
It can't get in. That's what they call insulin resistance, but it isn't insulin resistance. It's cell protection. You don't want an overplus of energy in there. Well, where's the blood glucose going to reside? In the bloodstream.
Right.
Which is totally obvious. So then, then you've got people saying, well, you've got low insulin. Well, yes, you've got low insulin because you are producing the exact amount of blood glucose you need on a minute by minute basis. So you don't need lots of insulin. And we're not eating loads of carbs. We're not putting toxic levels in. Our muscles are not wasting away. Don't know about you, but I don't feel like my muscles are wasting away. Yours aren't. Sean Baker's aren't, which is one of the roles of insulin. If you've had insufficient insulin, and then when we eat protein, and this is where the eating a big bolus of protein is important. When we eat protein, when you do really nuanced readings, which, like I say, with the private blood testing I did, we really got into it. Every time you eat protein, you don't see a rise in blood glucose first. You see a drop. That's what happens. And this is really a little bit of nuance everyone misses. And this is why we often say you're not eating enough protein, because what happens is you eat protein, your body detects that more energy is needed. I think most people know that you need about 5 times the amount of energy to digest protein, and your body knows that definitely. So you start eating it, you start using energy, you're chewing and digestion and the intestines moving more. Your blood glucose goes down a bit because you're using that energy. And there's a messenger called CCK, cholecystine kinase, and or kinin, sorry. And that signals to the pancreas, to the alpha cells and the beta cells, it talks to both. And the pancreas will pick up the signal, oh, we need to release glucagon. So glucagon is the thing that puts your blood glucose up to meet the energy demands of digesting protein. So all the things that are being talked about as being problems aren't problems. And then, they say the same people are saying, oh, gluconeogenesis is stressful. And then they also say the T3 has tanked. Well, if you want to raise T3, what does T3 do? It stimulates gluconeogenesis. So none of it makes any sense. And also, if you're worried about weight gain, adding carbs back in, they're doing that to spike insulin. Well, insulin turns off fat burning, so that makes no sense. So to me, if someone has added carbs back in and they feel better, that's great. That's absolutely fine, but don't do it for the wrong reasons. If you're losing weight on it, my bet is it's because you're hydrating properly, or you've now got to the point where you're eating enough. Whereas before you were probably under eating and panicking about gaining weight, so cutting back, which is just actually detrimental in many ways. The body will lower your metabolic rate, for instance. You're not eliciting the insulin, the blood glucose response from glucagon, which will have a knock-on effect. So what's my thoughts? Sorry about that. That's my thoughts. I don't do it for the wrong reasons. And also you might have a temporary feeling that it's great. So are you carb addicted? Many people, a little bit of carb becomes a lot of carb. So should you
I know that feeling.
Yeah, should you be doing that? Secondly, you're increasing glycation beyond belief. You will age quicker. So you might have this temporary benefit. I definitely think hydration is another one, because if you are eating carbohydrate, you will retain more water, which will help your fluid balance. So maybe it was an electrolyte issue because you weren't eating enough in the first place to elicit those responses. So you weren't retaining the water that you needed to retain, or the electrolytes, or you could be over drinking. That's another one. If your fluid, if your urine is clear, you're drinking too much. So there's so many reasons.
And that's the perfect example of why everything is nuanced, and it's very hard to pin a thing on one specific point, you know, like a reaction or negative or positive reaction on one thing, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry to go on, but it was it's a big topic at the moment.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Papa Carnivore. Just wanted to flash up some messages. So Olga, hi, this 76-year-old carnivore has just got back from my kettlebells class and breaking my fast with smoked salmon and eggs scrambled with melted butter. Sounds good. That's nice. Awesome.
Yeah,
nice work,
Sounds
Olga.
lovely.
Okay, so Idor, I started the carnivore diet to help with anxiety and panic attacks, and it really helped. And I even stopped taking SSRIs I took for 10 years. That's fantastic. Nice work. And I think Idor has a follow-up to this. So on carnivore diet to help my anxiety and panic attacks, and it really helped me stop the SSRIs. But if I'm eating eggs, aged cheeses, or taking creatine, I'm getting anxiety. Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Can you think of any reason for that, Steve?
Well, there may be some things, different things in different foods there. So the eggs, there are things in the whites that can be irritating to the body. Right. So it could be that. In the cheeses, I think aged cheeses, most people know that, aged cheeses have histamine. That's the word I was looking for. Histamine's in. So you could be getting a sort of inflammatory response from that. And creatine, when you're taking creatine as a supplement, I don't know how pure that supplement is. So I don't know if it's something in there, or the creatine just could simply be that you are actually going to the point where there's too much of that coming into your system. So I think one of the things I would do is I would take one of the things out and see if the other two things are actually the trigger, because you've done a list there, and I think you need to be forensic about it, to be honest. Because if you, let's say you took creatine out and you still felt anxiety, right? Okay, take the cheeses out, still feel anxiety. Okay, take the eggs out. Oh, I do have anxiety. It's probably the eggs. So then you could bring back the creatine, for a couple of weeks. Oh, yeah, no, I'm definitely all right with that. Bring in the aged cheeses. Oh, I'm not all right with that either. So it could be two things. It could be one thing. Could be none of those things. So, and it could be sort of environmental, but it just could be coincidental that you eat those things when you feel some sort of unconscious level of stress. If you get my drift, because some people will say, oh, well, chocolate is my problem. Let's say use that because that's a bit more sort of neutral here. Well, when do you eat chocolate? Well, I'd never thought of that. I eat chocolate when I'm stressed. So it isn't chocolate actually that's a problem. It's the trigger beforehand that is the problem. You went to get chocolate because you had a big exam coming up, or you were studying for your finals, or your husband's being a complete idiot or something. So I think also look at when you're eating those foods, but you just need to be really forensic about it. It's hard to see a mechanism for creatine, but as a supplement, there's always things in supplements.
Thank you for your question, Ido. From Steve. Hi, guys. Great to see you working together. What do you think of blue cheese on carnivore? Is the mold detrimental in any way? I would say, good way to
Go on.
test is something that Stephen just said there. Just make sure you're eating like strict carnivore for a period of time. You're feeling good. Put the blue cheese in and see how you feel after a week with the blue cheese. Stephen, to cut you off.
That's all right. Well, the mold is specifically cultured for the cheese making, so it doesn't have mycotoxins. You know, it doesn't have those things, and it's been used, you know, for hundreds of years. So if you have an allergy to penicillin, by the way, then you can't eat that. That's interesting.
Oh wow.
Oh no, sorry. Not talking out my bum there. If you're allergic to penicillin, you can eat that. Sorry.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So it, you know, that shows how safe it is, really.
Thank you for your question, Steve. From Elizabeth, I am postmenopausal, over 5 years carnivore. The only way I lose fat seems to be with OMAD. Am I doing myself harm? Really enjoy your information.
Well, I don't know you, Elizabeth. I can't see your body composition. Are you doing yourself harm? Well, if you're losing fat and OMAD is working for you and you feel great, then you're probably all right. I mean, if you look ancestrally and historically, what, you know, how would we have eaten? 3 meals a day is a Victorian premise. You know, these sort of breakfast, lunch, dinner things is just all man-made. So 1 meal a day should be okay. Lions eat 1 meal a day probably if they're lucky, you know, and cheetahs and giraffe and all that. So animals in the wild are hardwired for that. I think where it becomes a problem is if you're not able to eat enough. If you're feeling like you're losing fat, but also you're losing muscle mass or energy, you're not sleeping well, then you could look at doing 2 meals a day. Or you could do the classic 1 meal a day, but spread it over an hour. So you eat at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and have another meal at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which sort of technically qualifies as 1 meal a day because you're still digesting the first meal. But in the main, I don't think so. I think from experience, I know a lot of people do OMAD. Absolutely fine. Love it. You know, I've got one guy in particular who I've been coaching now for 6 years, I think, 6 years. And the interesting thing is he sends me a WhatsApp every single day of his 1 meal a day. And for the last, you know, 3 years, every so often I say, you don't have to keep doing this, but he likes the accountability. But for me, it's great data because he's definitely eating 1 meal a day and he never felt better. So no detrimental effects there. But, you know, yeah, I think you'd be all right, Elizabeth, to be honest.
I would think on the am I doing myself harm part of it, I would think that if you're eating that 1 meal a day and you're not really thinking about food at all for the rest of the day, and you're not having these kind of thoughts of, oh, I could just eat something, but I better not, otherwise I'm not going to lose weight, that might be the sign that you aren't eating enough in that one meal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's looking at signs, isn't it?
Yeah, but thank you for your question, Elizabeth. We've got one from Sylvie. For MS into CV, seems I've become histamine sensitive. I'm not sure do you know what she means there? Histamine sensitive, intolerant. AI says because my gut's changed and diamine oxidase isn't active anymore to break down histamine. Is it true? Other explanations?
Yes. Right. This is brilliant. Firstly, it's not true. Diamine oxidase is the enzyme that breaks down histamine, DAO. You can even buy it as a supplement, by the way. So if you're worried about a lack of DAO, you can definitely get that back into your system by just supplementing on it. Or you could eat some foods, so organ meats are really good. Kidney is particularly good. So you could, if you have ground beef or something, or you make burger patties, you can chop up a little bit of kidney once a week. So hide the taste if you don't like the taste of organ meats, and that will get some DAO into your system. The DAO not being active anymore, AI says it's because my gut's changed and it isn't active. AI, right? Okay, so if you run 3 different AIs, you'll get 3 different answers, and you can play one off the other. It is a possibility. It is a possibility, but it's probably more down to the fact that you're not producing enough. So when you're looking at histamine sensitivity, there's 3 ways to look at it. One is your inputs. So are you eating aged cheeses and eggs, by the way? Tyramine is the common link between those two. Going back to that question earlier, eggs and aged cheese both have tyramine in, which could be those 2 things, but creatine doesn't, by the way. Anyway, going back to this. So yes, your inputs, you've got to look at what you're putting into your system. So if it's anything that's got a lot of histamine in, anything aged, in fact, anything that dies, plants or animals, produces histamine. That's one of the things that happens. So the fresher, the better. So if you buy steak and you leave it in the fridge for 3 days, that's not going to be as good as buying the steak, putting it in the freezer, and then the day you're going to eat it, taking it out of the freezer. So anything that slows that aging process down, you should do. Then once it's in your system, then you have your body's own reaction to eating. So your digestive enzymes, your pancreatic enzymes, are they good enough? Your stomach acid, is that good? Did you chew it enough? So all these things that your parents told you when you was a kid, chew your food, slow down, all that, all makes total sense. So you could just change your eating habits and find that you're making life easier for your system. So the mechanical digestion, most people in the modern era now, we just chew, it's eaten. Well, I don't, because you can't on carnivore. It does slow you down a bit. And then the last thing is the clearance afterwards. And that's where DAO comes in, which is a naturally occurring enzyme that breaks down histamine. And you could have lower levels, but you could be overloading it in the first part. You could be speeding up your digestion in the second part. So again, going back to the creatine, if you've got a supplement, that's not how you would get creatine normally in that sort of isolated form. So it's all about thinking it all through and just mitigating all the problems before they start. So eat a bit slower, chew a bit more, take your time, have fresher food, and incorporate a little bit of kidney, belt and braces answer. So you give yourself a little bit of extra DAO and you should be fine. By the way, I follow somebody that is a designer of AI programs. And if you want to understand the limitations of AI, don't listen to people like me that are telling you secondhand. Go to the source, the people that are doing the programming. And the 2 things she talks about, more often than not, they don't call it lying. They call it AI hallucinations. Actually, it's a known thing that it makes stuff up, and it's down to probability. So when AI gives you an answer, many people think it just goes on the web and it looks at a sentence and it cut and pastes it. No, it doesn't do that. It's like every single word is based on a probability. So it will guess. It will absolutely guess every so often, and it's trying to expand its own knowledge that way. Dave, is this boring? Sorry, mate.
No, what?
Boring. Oh, right.
No,
you were a bit fidgety there, and I thought, and I've gone off diet.
I'm just itchy.
All right. I've gone off diet, really. That's too much histamine, and so we need to be wary of that. We definitely need to be wary of that, and I've had that. I mean, the most recent one was I tested a thing. I wanted to know what the HFE gene. I wanted to understand the mechanism of the gene. And it literally said that HFE stood for high ferritin, which it doesn't. Just made it up. It was incredible, and it is a known phenomena. So it might have said something that it just thinks might be true.
This just makes me think of, when you ask I just muck around using ChatGPT. And when you ask ChatGPT a question and you think, it's kind of the information that's coming out is good, but eventually you get to a point where you ask something and it tells you something is false. And then you go and you question it and you say, but what about blah, blah, blah? This, what you
Yep.
just told me can't be right. And then it goes, you know what? You're right.
Yes.
Thanks for picking that up. And
Yes.
I saw a meme about this today, and I can't remember what the meme was, but it was basically like someone who's just had surgery and the doctor talking to them. And, you know, the doctor had like a mask on that said open AI or whatever. And the patient's saying, I don't know, doctor, it was my right lung, not my left lung. And the doctor's like, you know, you're right. That's a good
Yeah.
point, you know, just like AI would do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just very like that, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. So there's a message here for you from Bobby. Stephen, I posted a link in school about how the folate that is put in processed foods actually blocks the real folate from real food. I think this is alarming.
Posted a link in school about how. Well, I'd have to read the article, but yes, there are things that definitely can block absorption of certain minerals. I'd have to look at that, Bobby, because I have not seen it. So can I look at that later?
Sure.
Do you mind?
Okay. Nikki, can you ever overcome sensitivities, intolerances? Butter is a no-no for me. My face swells up. Oh, wow.
Well, yes, it's possible. I mean, many people do see their allergies get better. I was hospitalised for eating fish before my 50th birthday, up until age 50, basically. I was highly allergic to fish, and some ingredients are not disclosed. And I had some, they weren't supposed to be fish cakes, but they were fish cakes, actually. And that got me into hospital. And then also there was another time where I'd ordered some chicken, sweet and sour chicken, which comes in a batter in the UK. So it's chicken and it's batter, and then you get rice with it. This is obviously when I was high carb, and they gave me prawn, battered prawn, which looks exactly the same. Just one bite.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, and my face was so swollen. Like, there's a film called, I think it's Lion or something, where the kid has this big swollen face. I had tiny slits for eyes, and my face was out here, to the point when I went into hospital, I was in this like cubicle where they've got the curtains drawn, and a doctor would come in and look at me and go, not say much, and then another one, and then another one, and I was sitting there thinking, well, I don't know what's going on. So then, by the time about 6 had come in, I actually said, oh, excuse me, before you go, could you tell me what's going on? I need to know if I'm going to be seen. And the doctor that I'd stopped said, it's all around the cafeteria, that you really need to go and see this allergic reaction. So I was like the freak show. It was that bad.
Oh, really?
No one was actually treating me, and it was terrible, apparently. Anyway, right. So the point being, I can now eat fish. I'm 61, and I honestly thought it was going to be for the rest of my life. And it was a really bad allergy. I mean, I couldn't, in the market, the open air market, I couldn't stand next to a wet fish stall, because I would start coming out and I'd start itching in my eyes with water. So the point I'm making, Nikki, is I had a really bad sensitivity, really bad intolerance. So if you're not tolerating butter, which is a dairy product, it's still dairy, and even ghee can cause people to have problems, that might not be for life. So just keep eating this way. As your systemic inflammation goes down, your mast cell it's all about histamines today, isn't it? Your mast cell activation starts reducing, and you start to level out. You could try a little bit of butter, reintroduce it very slowly, and see if you tolerate it. Maybe, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, a year. Don't give up on it.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Super chat from Nicholas. Just a small thanks to you both, especially for the sanity, real health know-how, not running after the latest fads, and inspiring stories from real people. Cheers, Nicholas. Okay, just go backwards to Meaty Fan. I have been using my mother's old cast iron pans and just remembered she used Crisco and all other seed oils. Do you think those old shellacked oils that are on those pans are harmful?
By the way, I just looked up Bobby's thing about the folic acid, and it is a video, so I will have to get back to her on that. I hate not answering questions. Right. So you've got these old cast iron pans, and wow, they use Crisco, blimey, and other seed oils. So do you think these old shellacked oils, so that is, were they treated, has it been treated with a resin then, these pans? So yes, I mean, if you've done that, it is a protective layer, I suppose. I have to think this one through. So the idea is that would protect against the rancid oils. So she used Crisco. I don't really understand the question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because you spray shellac, you spray it on as a protective thing, don't you?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. If it was me, I'd just get new pans.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Yeah. Thank you, Midi fan. Sorry.
It's the bug, isn't it? It's a lac bug. It's an LAC bug that actually sort of secretes this resin.
Oh, right. Is it?
And that's what it is. So
okay.
Your nails, you can get shellacked nails, can't you?
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah, okay.
So if you've got an old pan
and
you've used seed oils in that pan, and then you've cleaned it, and then you've shellacked it, yeah, I'd get new pans.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna butcher your name. I'm sorry, but Domagoj, best carnivore type, and any other advice for psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis. For example, water fast helped more than carnivore, etc., but is temporary.
Yeah. Now the person you need to speak to is Phil Escott with 2 T's, ESCOTT, because he had that. He had both those conditions and absolutely resolved it with carnivore. He's a big fan of the occasional dry fast as well as a water fast. I think you might get some benefit from that. The best advice is carnivore. I mean, best carnivore type and other advice. Well, you just want to do a reasonably high fat diet. I would eat, if you can afford lamb, I would do lamb more than beef because of the amino acid profile. I would definitely include some fish and get some omega-3s in. So people say fatty fish like salmon. It isn't really fatty. It's actually quite good in protein, and it's about 70% water. There's only like 5% fat in there, but the fat that is in there is omega-3. So I would get some EPA, DHA into your system, which is, let's get really untechnical. I mean, those fats are from fish that swim in really cold temperatures. They are fats that make things very lubricated and very able to move and flip and be fast. So that's their role, to lubricate you. Motion is lotion. And that's the next thing, is to do some deliberate type of exercises, like walking, rather than just say, well, I'm quite a busy person. Deliberately go and do something that pushes you a little bit. So walking, for instance, it's all well and good saying, well, I walk to the shop and I walk back. Well, walk a little bit further, just push yourself. So it's not easy, but it doesn't have to make you sweat and go mad. But just keep yourself moving and always push your range of motion. So if you can only do that with your hands, try and just go to the edge and then push yourself a little bit more and do all these little exercises to keep pushing your physiological limit, and your body will adapt. It's going to say, oh, this idiot keeps wanting to do that. So we're going to do that eventually.
Hmm.
So you get a training response. You're training your body to move a bit more fluidly. And the more you move, the more your synovial fluids will be viscous and healthy. And you also get what we just said about histamine. There's always a cleanup act going on. If you don't move your joints, you're not going to get any new nutrients going in. You're not going to have the cleanup sort of effect of older nutrients, nutrients coming out. So yeah, just keep moving. Motion is lotion. Fatty meats, lamb rather than beef. You can still use beef. Beef is very good, but I think if you can afford lamb, do lamb. Add some fish in. Mineral water. Don't use coffee. Don't have coffee. Even Swiss water. Yeah, yes. Swiss water decaf. Even that. I mean, I've got a coffee there. I wouldn't do that because of acrylamides. That builds up in your joints. So sorry, mate. Keep the coffee out. Even decaf. Because it's the roasting process. If you want a hot drink, tea doesn't have acrylamides. It does have other things in it. But yeah, that's it, I think.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I've just messed up the chat here. I'm just scrolled a little bit too far. Just 1 second. Please, forgive
Do you want me to
my
talk for a bit?
amateurishness.
No,
There we
let's
go.
talk. Let's cover it. Okay. Go on, carry on.
Nudia, what is it about organ meats that some people cannot tolerate beef organs, but they can tolerate lamb organs, even when they can eat beef with no problem? Just changing the animals. I hadn't heard this.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is the different amino acid profile. It's just they are different.
So you just got
so
sensitivities to different amino acids.
Yeah. It's and also it's the vitamin content. It's basically the whole thing about the food. I mean, some people can tolerate salmon, but not cod.
Right.
In fact, cod, there is an example. That's the only fish I can't eat. It's still a fish.
Oh, wow.
But there's obviously something in cod that isn't in other fish. And it's difficult. Sorry, my screen's gone down now. So yeah, I think that's the thing. You've got more. Well, if you look at lamb, if you look a bit more broadly, if you look at lamb as just forget the organ bit, just look at lamb. It's a higher proportion of unsaturated fat. Which might be for some people easier to digest. I'm not saying I'm anti saturated fat by saying that. I'm just saying there's a higher percentage of unsaturated fat. So beef has more saturated fat. We could look at it that way. So maybe that is troublesome for people. And it isn't so much that it's the food itself, it's your structures. So you might not be producing enough bile to be able to do it. So you might say, I can't tolerate beef organs, but I can lamb organs. That might be an admission that you're not producing enough bile, and therefore you find beef difficult but lamb easy because there's more unsaturated fats in there. Maybe it could be
interesting. Wow,
that's speculation, really. So, yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to ask. So, like, should someone have an issue with if they're not producing enough bile? Would you just recommend supplements to like ox bile or something like that?
Oh,
to help them?
Yes. Now, there's two schools of thought. Okay, so ox bile, I literally had this week one of the people I deal with say, "Oh, life changing. It's a game changer, absolute life changing." Now that's good, but we want the body to produce it, so it can be a bridge. It can prove concept. That's the first thing, that your bile production isn't up to scratch. Then when you use the ox bile, what you're doing is you are exceeding your body's natural capacity. So you could be more strategic before you add the ox bile. You could think, right, okay, well, I'm just going to do 6 meals a day, much smaller, and not put such a big load in every time, and see if my bile production catches up. You could look at, I know it's sort of doing the same thing, but a different way. You could supplement with taurine, for instance. which is brilliant at clearing out the stomach and helping your body produce its own bile. But once you've given it that nudge, it's a bit like, you know, a car. If you give a car a kickstart and it starts up, and then that charges the battery, and then it's fine. It's good to go forever. So you could do that, or you could go straight to the ox bile and hope that with a little bit of assistance, all the other systems will catch up.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want it to be something where it's just you have to take it forever, because then your body's not kind of...
It's never going to get there.
It's never going to get there, yeah.
No. Yeah, so you've got to keep doing that. You've got to keep... What we just said about the physiological edge is, you know, it's true for all things. So you just push yourself a little bit. Right, I can't tolerate beef organs, but I'd like to include them. See, that's the other thing. Don't include these things if an influencer said you definitely need them, because you definitely don't. You know, there's so many different ways you can get the nutrition in. There's no be all and end all one way, one size fits all. That's just not the way it is.
I think it always should come down to, like, how are you actually feeling? You know, like if someone's, because it's like, you know, a plant-based advocate saying you need fiber, you need phytonutrients and all this kind of thing. And it's like, well, why do I feel better than I ever have before? You know, just eating muscle meat or whatever, you know?
Yes.
But from Bobby, Stephen, you're the best.
Thank you. Yes, and she knows that I will go and watch that thing in school as soon as this is over and have an answer. But that's one of the things as well. What we were talking about at the beginning, influencers, it could be bunk. It could be just complete parroting of what they've heard, or, you know, or there could be some science to what they're saying. So I don't want to even guess.
Okay. And from Pavita, sorry, didn't realize you were simulcasting. Here's a bit of love for you too. Oh, thank you very much. Cheers.
Yes.
That's very kind of you.
Kind. Yeah, it is kind.
Just words. Hi, Dave. Am I right that Japanese eat very little yeast-based products? Is this an advantage to their health? They do. They probably eat less than we would in the UK or Australia or America, but is this an advantage to the health? I'm not sure. I would say the biggest advantage to Japanese health is their culture.
Oh, yeah.
Because their culture has a lot of nuance about the way you should eat. And one of the things is something called harahachibu, which is stop when you're 80% full. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stop when you're 80% full, right? So, you know, from being kids, they're constantly trained to not overeat. Whereas, you know, in Australia, we're trained to stop at 120% full. You know, so there's that kind of thing, but there's also the thing of kind of conformity in Japan, like, or harmony. And you don't want to stand out in an environment like that, right? So whereas if you're sitting at a table in, you know, London, Melbourne, New York, you know, you're out for dinner with friends and there's pizza on the table and it's like no one's eating the pizza and you really like it, so you're just going to keep eating. That wouldn't happen in Japan because no one wants to stand out. And so there's a cultural thing of, like, you want to look like everyone else. So if everyone else is eating daintily, then you're going to eat daintily as well. There's very few people going to be gorging. And it's all that kind of thing that contributes to their health more than anything else, I think. Of course, it's somewhat fresh food, more fresh food and all that kind of thing. But I think culture plays the biggest role.
That's brilliant. Yes, because I mean, I was very lucky to go to Japan, and I thought that they were firstly very healthy. Oh, and secondly, I just want to say congratulations on getting a new leader there who seems to have her head screwed on. You've got a new
Oh, yes, yeah. I don't pay much attention to the news, so it took me a second. Yeah, yeah. Probably not much. It's Japan, so probably not much will change. But yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think she's saying all the right things for me, mate. I wish she was over here.
Okay,
Honestly.
it's maybe making more news overseas, than it is here. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we won't get all political because we'll get people switching off, won't we? But I just want to say, yeast. And it seems like this is the theme of the day. It is a promoter of histamine. So yeah, if you get yeast out of your diet, it's going to be beneficial, isn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of things like yeast, I had this fantastic conversation the other day with a professor of bioengineering from Stanford, and she's put all the pieces together about why carnivore is actually so effective at making people healthier.
Yeah.
And basically, it comes down to something called PG, which is like the gingivitis kind of infection that people get in their mouth that causes gingivitis, periodontitis, that kind of thing. And what kind of works in concert with that to help it stay alive is candida.
All right.
And these are two things, and like the gingivitis causes things like dementia and Alzheimer's and all these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And candida and gingivitis tend to go away on carnivore.
Right.
Yeah. And which seems to be why people report the same kind of improvements all the time when they're doing carnivore. Yeah. And often oral health is one of the first things to improve. Yeah. So question from Just Words. We seem to be surrounded by carbs in the West. It's on much of our meat. How do we avoid it in social situations?
Well, firstly, change your relationship with food, and whatever works for you out of these suggestions, grab the one that makes you go, well, that's a good idea. So firstly, one of the things I used to do when we did face-to-face meetings once a month, and we had a great deal of success with the weight loss and body composition and health, is we'd encounter the common, I can't give up my bread. That would be one. I can't give that up. So I'd always say, right, okay, have you got pets? And most people have a pet. And I would say, right, forget what we're talking about, diet, nutrition for a minute. I just want to ask you, would you ever feed your pet something deliberately that you knew would hurt them? And not one person would go, well, of course I would. They'd all go, well, of course I wouldn't. Why would I give my pet something that's not good for them? So, right, okay, back to the class. You need to treat yourself like your pet. So that worked for some people. Just the thought that you're doing something that's not good for you. It's easy as that. Now, you can't use that for, say, someone that's addicted to smoking. So you have to use some other things, like you just abstain from it. You're surrounded by carbs, but you just don't eat them. The more you don't eat them, the less you want them. And you have to have a support network with you as well. So you have to make sure that your friends and family are on board with you. Now, this sounds really strange, but if you said, I'm trying to give up smoking, all your friends would help you. If they're friends, if they're proper friends. If you said, I think I'm drinking too much alcohol, I need to stop because I'm becoming an alcoholic, all your friends would stop. If they're proper friends, you'd still have an idiot. Oh, come on, don't be so boring, which is not helpful.
Right.
So you've got to get people to realize that you are addicted to carbs, or they're not good for you, or your diabetes is not going to be well managed, and get them on board. The other thing is if you go out for a meal and someone is being obnoxious about the fact you're not having potatoes, you could use a bit of humor and say, really, you're not going to have a good night unless I eat a potato? How ridiculous is that? So to show them how stupid that is. Or you could just order and not mention it and just leave them and just say, I was a bit full. I enjoyed the meat. That's all I fancied, What's going to happen is your friend going to go, well, you've got to go eat the salad. God, you've got to, you know. So I just think be a bit more light-hearted, but don't ram your opinions down their throats when you start, because you're setting yourself up for an argument. They don't even say, "Oh, I'm a carnivore." Just order a steak and say, "Well, don't want the fries. I'll have a little bit of salad." And you can push the salad around the plate.
So what I did when I got started, I know what I'm like as far as when I see food. I've like my life is a seafood diet. When I see food, I need to eat it, right? So
Yeah.
I knew when I started, if I got a phone call from a friend and saying, "Oh, we're having a dinner party on the weekend, you want to come round?" I'd be straight back into the food, So when I got started, I just said to everyone that's likely to invite me out, please don't invite me out for the next 2 months. I've got to get my diet and my drinking under control. And so I didn't get there was no going out over that first 2 months. And by the time I had been without carbs for 2 months, then I was at the point where I could sit at a table and watch people eating carby stuff and not feel like I needed to partake in it. And yeah, if someone said, "Why are you not eating this?" I would just say, I'm not feeling like it today or whatever. But yeah, I had to, if you're a similar personality to me, it's best to kind of sequester yourself from it totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for your question, Just Words. Miss E, do you guys know how much the community appreciates you both? Oh, thank you very much, Miss E.
Thank you. I don't know. Do you know? Do you know? Do you think? Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, it's really nice. It's really nice. And one of the things I would say, while we're both on and we're both trying to get more subscribers, is always check. If you think you're a subscriber to our channel or you've got notifications hit, double check it every so often, because YouTube does get rid of subscribers. It does unsubscribe people and stop the notification bell. So just double check. That is very... You'd be surprised how much that supports the channels and how much it supports what we do. A simple thumbs up, which costs you nothing. Subscribing costs you nothing. Liking something costs you nothing. A comment costs you nothing. More engagement, the better. So that's a way to show appreciation, I think. And obviously the super chats and all that are really helpful as well. But Dave's got to his 100,000, which is fantastic. But you fully deserve it, Dave, by the way. You worked really hard. You put up great content.
Thank you.
I'm nearly at 40,000. I'm at 39,700, something like that. So if you want to go over to my channel and subscribe, even if you don't watch me, but you appreciate me coming on Dave's channel, that'd be great. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, I think it just bears repeating, right? Like, it's something that doesn't cost anything, like that subscribe, the comment, but it is a massive signal to YouTube to actually push the video more, So
Yes.
whether it's a live stream or it's a video on your channel, it's really important. But thank you for the thoughts, Missy. NC7. How likely is it a pre-existing magnesium deficiency stays that way, even on strict carnivore? Pork for 5 years, beef and egg for the last 2. Pork only for 5 years. Wow.
Pork for 5 years, beef and eggs for the last 2. Well, I wonder what caused the magnesium deficiency in the first place. I mean, that's interesting reason. Possibly. Well, I don't want to speculate because I don't know enough. So I was going to, but I don't think I need to. I think there's enough magnesium in this way of eating. I think it also goes down to fluid balance. Again, one of the things I've definitely look at is how much water you're drinking. If your urine is clear, you're drinking too much. Why that is important is because if it's clear, you are literally urinating out electrolytes and not waste. Urine is a waste product, so it needs to be lightly straw coloured. And obviously, let's be sensible. If his urine is dark, you need to drink more. I'm not saying to not drink at all. But like we said about salmon, for instance, 72% of salmon is water. I think it's about the same for a ribeye. So we do get a lot of water, metabolic water, from what we're eating. So don't buy into the 8 glasses of water thing. Well, there are magnesium-rich foods in the way we eat. As always, I will do the proviso about inputs and outputs. Don't drink any alcohol if you can, because that depletes magnesium. If you have a digestive issue like a leaky gut, that's obviously going to affect your absorption. Certain medications will deplete you of magnesium. So I'm covering all the bases of why that might be there in the first place. Protein pump inhibitors actually interfere with magnesium absorption, and it basically increases its excretion. Diuretics do that, so that's another thing. Stress, if you've got a stressful life, if you're up till 11 o'clock at night watching YouTube videos and being triggered by them, that's going to do it as well. Other than that, I mean, just make caffeine, so if you're on coffee, get rid of that, because that increases urinary excretion and that will increase magnesium going out of your body. If you're sweating a lot, do hot yoga, or your physical activity is just making you sweat, you might want to consider not doing that so much. But yeah, this way of eating is about the best way you're going to equalize all of your things, all of your electrolytes and your fluid balance. So I think I wouldn't worry about that. I think it's going to get better, but I wouldn't be as restrictive on what I eat. I'd try and include eggs if that's possible. I would try to include fish. But that's all I could say. And maybe different types of meat. I don't know where you live in the world, but bison, lamb is good. It's very expensive. I've got one particular person off the top of my head who really was struggling with carnivore until they discovered lamb, and now they're absolutely thriving. It's made a huge difference. It's quite remarkable just how big a difference it's made. But
I wish we could get lamb here. It's just not popular in Japan. They don't sell it anywhere.
No.
Thank you, NC7. Okay, Clark Wilson, 72-year-old male, 3.5-year keto carny, type 2 diabetic, fasting glucose 5.5, A1C 6.3, fasting insulin 10, C-peptide 300.
Yep.
Is pancreas failing? Doctor is no help.
No. Well, doctor is no help. Is that a Japanese doctor? Doctor is no help. Right. All right. Maybe that's a bit racist. I retract that, but I was just joking. Right. Well, yeah, your pancreas is making insulin. It's that simple. We're talking about the fasted glucose 5.5. That's fine. That's the A1C we talked about earlier. That could be your red blood cells living longer, because you're now 3.5 years keto carnivore. So you need to get a fructosamine test if you're worried about that. Your glycation levels would be better tested on a fructosamine test, or when the labs actually release the HbA1c, the adjusted HbA1c, which is a real thing where they factor in the lifespan of the red blood cells. So it's a thing. It's not just a theory of mine. That would be great. But the pancreas there, C-peptide, so connected peptide, when insulin is made, it goes into a vesicle before it's popped out into the bloodstream. And in that vesicle, amongst other things, is insulin and peptide, which is connected to it. So when insulin is released into the bloodstream, off goes the C-peptide, and the C-peptide has a longer half-life, so it's easier to measure. And it's a great proxy measurement for your insulin production. And that's pretty much mid-range where you'd want. So your pancreas is producing the insulin. You've also got to understand that what's in your blood is not what's in your tissue. So if you have insulin in your blood, it's not being utilized, you might be very insulin sensitive. So it might do its job and degrade and off it goes. So I would not be worried about those numbers, but I know many of the influencers that are trying to get you back onto carbs would be, because they're not reading the numbers right. Fasted glucose, I think, going back to that document I mentioned earlier, I do have another one actually, which is quite interesting. If you could bear with me 1 second, I might be able to find it why the blood glucose levels. Yeah, let me just put this up. This is from Science Direct. Can I screen share, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Right, so these levels, I think it's that one there. This is from Science Direct, and this is talking about blood glucose levels. And all the numbers that I've mentioned, healthy adults, 75 kilograms, we've got 5 litres of blood, 100 milligrams per deciliter amounts to a total of only 5 grams of glucose. So it actually says it here, and we're looking at the levels. Normal blood glucose levels are 80 to 110 milligrams per deciliter, to say at the top. Chronically elevated levels are over 130, which I mentioned. And a fasted glucose post-meal, as long as it's under 180, which is that renal threshold, it's fine. So if you want to take that off the screen now, that's all I wanted to show people, really. Those numbers that when people say under 100, it's just a, what's the word? It's just a catchphrase. It's just it's arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's not based on any science. The physiology of somebody eating low carb or keto is completely different. It's a low insulin state. We're more insulin sensitive. We use more glucose diffusion rather than insulin, and there's more fatty acids in the cell. So where is the blood glucose going to reside? It's going to be in the bloodstream. No problems whatsoever.
Just before we move on to the next question, we probably have to wrap up in about 10 minutes. So we've got time for a couple more questions. From Summer, thanks for the super chat. TSH 0.93, free T4 17.8, free T3 5.2. Is this good or bad?
Now, how are you feeling? Right. Firstly, they are in the normal range. So yeah, that's okay. Now, but this is where thyroid is really frustrating, because everything on there is okay, but you could be feeling like low energy, and you could have quite high reverse T3, which is not measured. You could have more nuance if we were able to test for T2, for instance. T2 is a supplement you can get in America. T2 absolutely supercharges the electron transport chain. It's a fantastic hormone that people don't really talk about. And the reason they don't talk about it is because you don't get it in labs. So it's difficult to, you do in research papers. I deal with research papers, which is how, we know about this. So look, going back to the numbers we got, from the numbers we've got, that's in normal range. So we could go, yeah, that's pretty good. But your clinical presentation might mean that you are always getting hot. So maybe those numbers would be too high. The thyroid is an amazing organ, and it's always sort of said as the metabolic overseer, the master metabolic gland is the thyroid. And that's absolutely true. And it does what's called futile metabolic processes, because most organs, most hormones are either doing one thing, which is anabolic, or catabolic, breaking stuff down. The thyroid is doing what's called a futile process of both things. That's what it does. It builds you up and breaks you down, and it keeps your metabolic rate, where it should be. So, for instance, earlier I mentioned that T3, people say, oh, I don't like gluconeogenesis, it's too stressful, but my T3 is too low. Yeah, well, T3 will raise, part of its role is it will raise gluconeogenesis as part of the raising your metabolic rate, but it'll also break stuff down. And that's what's more important. If you're feeling great, then those numbers are great. If you're not, then you need to say, I'm feeling hot, I'm gaining too much weight, I'm not gaining enough weight, and then you can be more diagnostic about what those numbers relate to. I would definitely, if you were going to get a panel, if you're worried about thyroid, try and add in reverse T3. If you are worried about symptoms that are sort of anything to do with thyroid, which is unexplained weight loss or gain, excess heat or coldness, so anything to do with temperature, then try and get the full panel. And then you can get what's called TPO and TG antibodies. These are the antibodies that attack is the wrong word, but interfere, or they can get to such a high level it's problematic for the TG and TPO, which are the two factors that make thyroid hormone. So TPO, thyroid peroxidase, is involved in the initial process of making thyroid hormone, and thyroid globulin is the globulin that all the tyrosine is attached to, that then the iodines are attached to. And anyway, so but this is where nuance comes in, because people worry if they have some antibodies, TPO and TG antibodies. Well, that's the immune system doing what's called checks and balances. It will constantly check to make sure that everything's fine. So you will get some antibody production, because that's what the immune system is there for, to be proactive and modulate things. So you won't ever get zeros. And this is another thing that I'd like to just share with people, is when you start, say, for instance, supplementing with iodine and your thyroid production goes up, your TPO and TG antibodies will go up proportionately. So don't think, oh, well, I've done that and now I'm having a thyroid problem. Because if you've got 1,000 soldiers in the army and you've got one drill sergeant checking them, doing checks and balances, and then suddenly you've got 2,000 and you need to do checks and balances in the same period of time, you need another drill sergeant. So it will go up. So the proportion is interesting. So you've got your 1,000, you double it. So your antibodies, your drill sergeant, that doubles. In fact, what we tend to find is, as your thyroid improves, that volume of thyroid hormone goes up, maybe double, but you don't get a complete doubling of antibodies, but you get a small, it's disproportionate, but it's not above that rate of antibodies. So there's a lot more to the bloods than just three numbers there. But if we're going to be superficial, I could go, yeah, they look good, right in the middle of the range.
Thank you for your question, Summer. Okay, so last question from Just Words. I recently had a lot of carbs and sweets handed to me, ate them, and the reaction was like if I got drunk, including feeling sick, headaches, or the hangover next morning. I've heard of this happening to a couple of people before. Have you heard of this, Stephen?
Yeah, well, yeah, you've got a toxic level of glucose. So it's too quick for your pancreas. It's inappropriate. So you get an inappropriate overreaction from the pancreas and more insulin than you need, and then you get a sugar crash. So what we were talking about earlier, we have these brilliant systems to keep our blood sugar at a certain homeostatic level. So people say cortisol is a stress hormone. It's not. It's a homeostatic hormone. It keeps things in balance. And that's what insulin does. It keeps things in balance. So does glucagon. But we're designed to eat a certain way. So if you go and get, I don't know, 5 Mars bars or something, and you just scoff them all down, that's not natural. That amount of sugar in one hit is just so much. So all the alarm bells will go off. What we said about the polyol pathway, that will come into action, which is not going to be great. So that's going to affect your vision, because you can get osmotic effects in your eye. You're going to get peripheral, feelings in your toes and fingers and stuff like that if you keep doing it. But this one initial thing, just happening as a one-off, you're just going to feel sick because there's way too much blood sugar going up too quickly. Insulin has done its job, saved you from the toxic level of carbs, but probably it's a biphasic reaction. You have granules of insulin ready to go, and then you have new production. It's produced more because it doesn't know that you've stopped. If you're still eating and eating, it's just going to go for it.
There's more coming, guys. We've got to prepare.
Hang on to your hat. So you've really shocked it. You really have shocked it. So yeah, awful. Yeah, and you feel like you're hungover. So you may even have metabolism. There might be some fructose in there, and there might be some metabolism in your liver going on, because fructose is very, very glycating, to the point where it robs the ATP of the liver's own energy supply to stop the fructose in what you've eaten, creating a glycation problem. So it adds a phosphate on it. So fructose becomes fructose 1-phosphate. That phosphate comes from ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. So there's 3 phosphates. So one of them goes to make fructose less troublesome, stopping it glycating. So your concentration of ATP in your liver plummets. So this is all stuff that alcohol does as well. So your blood glucose goes too high, then it goes too low. You have fructose metabolism in your liver, which is not great. Yes, you have the osmotic effects. You have the water retention, because every time there's 1 gram of glucose, there's 3 grams of water. So you feel a bit blah, blah, blah. And your blood pressure goes up because your volume of water has gone up. So your plasma goes up. Your fluid balance is going to do all those things. So yeah, doesn't sound great, does it? Wasn't worth it.
No. And wow, I'm just thinking back to, the 25 years since I moved, 25 years after moving out of home, like that was a day, that was every day for me. That's
Oh, wow,
terrible.
really?
Oh yeah, I got no off switch, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's sugar, it's yeah. So yeah, that's why that, like whenever people talk about, some carnivores are adding carbs back in, and I'm like, well, that's just not going to happen for me, because I know the first taste of one, it's all over. It's yeah. But guys, we're going to have to head off. Thank you so much for being with us this evening, this afternoon, this morning, depending on where you're coming in from. And yeah, we'll have to do another one of these soon.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. So thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. I can't find